Your car battery is dying faster than it should, and it is not your fault. The average American replaces their car battery every 3 to 4 years. In Japan, they are getting 7 to 8 years out of the exact same batteries, same chemistry, same manufacturers, double the lifespan. And it all comes down to a 2-minute maintenance ritual that 99% of Western drivers have never heard of. Today, I am breaking down exactly what Japanese mechanics have known for decades and why this simple technique could save you hundreds of dollars. But first, let me show you what is actually killing your battery right now. Here is something most people do not realize. Your battery is not dying from old age. It is dying from sulfation. When you start your car, lead sulfate crystals form on the battery plates. That is normal. When you drive, your alternator recharges the battery and dissolves those crystals. Also normal. But here is the problem. Most Americans drive short trips to work, to the grocery store, to pick up the kids. These trips are not long enough to fully recharge the battery, so those sulfate crystals never fully dissolve. They harden, they accumulate, and within 3 years, up to 80% of your battery's capacity is gone. Not because the battery failed, but because the crystals strangled it to death. Japanese drivers figured this out decades ago, and they developed a stupidly simple solution: the hot water reset method. This is going to sound almost too simple to work, but Japanese mechanics swear by it, and the science backs it up completely. Here is what you do. Pop your hood, locate your battery, boil a kettle of water, and let it cool for about 2 minutes until it is around 150 to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Not boiling, but hot. Then slowly pour it over the top of your battery terminals while the car is off. That is it. 2 minutes. Done. What just happened? The hot water dissolved the visible corrosion on your terminals, sure. But more importantly, the thermal shock loosened the sulfate crystal buildup on the internal plates. Studies from the Japan Automobile Research Institute found that this simple thermal treatment, done once a month, reduced sulfation buildup by up to 47% compared to untreated batteries. That is nearly half the crystal accumulation eliminated with nothing but hot water. Now, before you say this sounds like some internet myth, let me explain the actual chemistry. Lead sulfate crystals become increasingly stable over time through a process called Ostwald ripening. Small crystals dissolve and redeposit onto larger crystals, making them harder and more permanent. Heat disrupts this process. It increases the solubility of the sulfate compounds and prevents the crystals from hardening into that permanent, capacity-killing state. Japanese mechanics have understood this principle since the 1970s. American mechanics are still trying to sell you a new battery every 3 years. But that is just step one. Japanese maintenance culture goes deeper, way deeper. In Japan, there is a concept called Kaizen, continuous improvement through small, consistent actions. Japanese drivers apply this to their batteries religiously. The second part of their method involves terminal maintenance that takes exactly 30 seconds but extends battery life by years. Here is what they do differently. After the hot water treatment, they apply a thin coating of petroleum jelly or dielectric grease to both terminals. In America, we clean our terminals maybe once a year if we remember. Japanese drivers do this monthly. Why does this matter? Corrosion creates resistance. Resistance generates heat. Heat accelerates sulfation. By keeping terminals perfectly clean and protected, you are breaking the chain reaction that kills batteries prematurely. One Toyota dealership in Osaka tracked customer battery replacements over 15 years. Customers who followed this monthly terminal maintenance protocol averaged 7.2 years of battery life. Those who did not averaged 3.8 years. Same cars, same batteries, same climate. Nearly double the lifespan from a 30-second habit. The voltage check ritual. Now here is where it gets really interesting. Japanese drivers do not guess about their battery health. They measure it. And you should too. A cheap multimeter costs $15 at any auto parts store. Japanese mechanics recommend checking your battery voltage once a month, right before the hot water treatment. Here is what your numbers mean. 12.6 volts or higher means your battery is fully charged and healthy. 12.4 volts means 75% charged. Acceptable, but watch it closely. 12.2 volts means 50% charged, and you need to take action now. Below 12 volts means your battery is essentially dead, and sulfation has likely already caused permanent damage. The genius of this system is early detection. By the time most Americans notice a battery problem, it is too late. The starter cranks slowly one cold morning. You get a jump. You think it is fine. 2 weeks later, you are stranded in a parking lot. Japanese drivers catch the decline at 12.4 volts, months before failure, and correct it with extended highway drives and the hot water treatment. They never get stranded because they never let it get that bad. The extended drive protocol. This brings us to the fourth component of the Japanese method, and honestly, this might be the most important one. Remember how I said short trips are killing your battery? Japanese mechanics prescribe what they call a battery conditioning drive once every 2 weeks. Here is the protocol. Drive for at least 30 continuous minutes at highway speeds. No stopping, no city traffic, just sustained driving that keeps the alternator pumping consistent power into your battery. What happens during this drive is remarkable. Your alternator outputs between 13.5 and 14.5 volts, which is higher than your battery's resting voltage. This voltage differential forces current through the sulfate crystals, breaking them down and converting them back into active material on the plates. Studies from Panasonic's automotive division showed that batteries subjected to weekly 30-minute highway drives retained 89% of their original capacity after 5 years. Batteries that only experience short trips retain just 54% over the same period. That is a 35% difference in capacity retention from one simple habit. If you are getting value from this so far, do me a favor and hit that like button. It really helps the channel. Winter protection secret. Now let's talk about something most people completely ignore: temperature management. Cold weather is a battery killer. At 32 degrees Fahrenheit, your battery loses 35% of its cranking power. At 0 degrees Fahrenheit, it loses over 60%. This is why so many batteries die in winter. But here is what Japanese drivers in Hokkaido, one of the coldest regions in the country, do differently. They use battery blankets. These are simple heated wraps that plug into a standard outlet and keep your battery at optimal temperature overnight. Cost is about $30. Studies suggest 2 to 3 additional years of life in cold climates. In Sapporo, where winter temperatures regularly hit -10 degrees Fahrenheit, mechanics surveyed by Japanese automotive magazine Best Car found that drivers using battery blankets averaged 6.8 years of battery life compared to 3.1 years without. That is more than double the lifespan for a $30 investment. But here is the thing most Westerners do not realize. Heat is actually worse for batteries than cold. Cold reduces capacity temporarily. Heat causes permanent damage. For every 15 degrees above 77 degrees Fahrenheit, battery lifespan decreases by 50%. So if you live in Arizona, Texas, or Florida, your battery is aging twice as fast as one in Minnesota. Japanese drivers in Okinawa and other hot regions combat this with reflective battery covers that reduce temperatures under the hood by up to 20 degrees. Combined with the hot water treatment and terminal maintenance, they still achieve 6 or more years of battery life despite brutal summer heat. The Trickle Charger Protocol. Here is another Japanese secret that American drivers almost never use: maintenance charging. If your car sits for more than a week without being driven, Japanese mechanics recommend connecting a trickle charger or battery maintainer. These devices output just 1 to 2 amps, enough to counteract the natural self-discharge that all batteries experience, but not enough to overcharge or damage the cells. Self-discharge happens constantly. Even a healthy battery loses 1% of its charge per day just sitting there. After 30 days of sitting, your battery could be at 70% charge, right in the danger zone where sulfation accelerates. Japanese drivers who store vehicles during winter, or who have secondary cars they do not drive daily, almost universally use maintainers. The data supports this obsession. A 10-year study by GS Yuasa, Japan's largest battery manufacturer, found that batteries maintained with Trickle chargers during storage periods lasted an average of 8.4 years, compared to 4.2 years for unmaintained batteries. Exactly double. Trickle chargers cost less than $25. Why American mechanics don't tell you this? Let me be blunt. There is a reason you have never heard this advice from your local mechanic. Battery replacement is profitable. A new car battery costs $150 to $300. Labor is another $50 to $100. That is a $200 to $400 transaction that mechanics can count on every 3 to 4 years from every customer. Teaching you how to make your battery last 7 to 8 years cuts their revenue in half. I am not saying mechanics are evil. Most genuinely want to help, but the system is not designed to educate you about prevention. It is designed to service you after failure. Japanese automotive culture is different. Preventive maintenance is the default mindset. Weekly checks, monthly treatments, constant attention to small details before they become big problems. It is Kaizen applied to car ownership. The complete Japanese battery protocol. Let me put this all together into an actionable system you can start today. Weekly, do a visual inspection of your battery terminals for any white or green corrosion buildup. Monthly, perform the hot water treatment. Boil water, let it cool for 2 minutes, then slowly pour it over the terminals with the car off. Follow immediately with petroleum jelly on both terminals. Check the voltage with a multimeter and record the number. Bi-weekly, complete a 30-minute highway drive at consistent speeds with no stops and no city traffic. Just let the alternator do its work. Seasonally, before winter, consider a battery blanket if you live in cold climates. Before summer, check that your battery is not directly exposed to excessive engine heat. Some vehicles benefit from aftermarket heat shields. As needed, if your car will sit for more than 7 days, connect a Trickle charger. This single habit alone could add years to your battery life. The results speak for themselves. Japanese drivers spend about 10 minutes per month on battery maintenance. The return on that investment? An extra 3 to 4 years of battery life. At $200 to $300 per battery, that is $600 to $1,200 saved over the average vehicle ownership period. More importantly, it is the peace of mind that comes from never being stranded with a dead battery, never needing a jump in a parking lot, never replacing a battery that should have lasted twice as long. The Japanese method is not complicated. It is not expensive. It is just consistent attention to a part of your car that most people ignore until it fails. And that is the real secret. Not some miracle product, not some complex procedure. Just 2 minutes of simple maintenance that Western drivers never learned because nobody ever taught them. Now you know. The question is whether you will actually do it. That's all for today. If you learned something new, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you do not miss future videos. Leave a comment below and let me know. Have you tried any of these methods before? What is the longest a car battery has ever lasted for you? Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.